I made a post earlier about false prophets. As you know, I've written and are continuing to write a book on false prophets. You notice that the spelling is with an FITS instead of the other way. That's because there's a difference. I would dare say that probably 90% of the people in America calling themselves prophets are not prophets. They're false prophets. Yeah, I said it. I'll say it to your face, too. I'm tired of watching people being bamboozled and used. Nothing gets on my nerves more than seeing people being used. So I'm going to speak to this. I made a post earlier, and when I get an inkling, when I get a green light in my heart and an urgency, I act on it. That's just what I do. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about just briefly, okay? I want to come with you with some other things too later on. But on this subject, I'm going to read a poem put together just for today. Some of you saw the graphic, but basically, there's some of you need to be warned, okay? You see the old vampire movies, where the vampire stands on the threshold of the door and says, "I can't come in unless you invite me." Well, I really believe that there's truth in that. And anyone who has been exposed to the occult understands that principle, that you have to give the demonic a legal right to come into your home. And you would never think the demonic is a false prophet, because who would invite a false prophet into their home, right? After all, you see someone who makes their prophecies and they become true, right? Well, unless you've been exposed to the occult, the good-hearted will consider that to be prophecy. It's not always prophecy. Often it's not. You're seeing these scandals that are being exposed. And some of you are next. Some of you are next. If you don't stop lying, if you don't stop exploiting people, you will be exposed in a very public way. And God, I believe, is releasing his Yehus or his Jehus to take care of these Ahabs in the world, right on the cusp of this harvest of souls. So here we go. This was a poem I put together today about this, and that you are responding to. False prophets sink their teeth into your kids so that when you catch on to their scam, your kids will defend them. So when you start catching on, wait a minute, I'm starting to hear the same old prophecies. I'm starting to see the same patterns. I'm starting to see the same stories. Now, some of that is obvious to us, but some good-hearted people who are not familiar with the occult will consider this to be divine. And oftentimes it is not, because God is not a fortune teller. Saul went to the witch of Endor, and when the witch conjured up the demons impersonating disembodied spirits of the dead, she was terrified to see that the real spirit of Samuel came up out of the ground and terrified the witch. It's because the demonic, they share the common joke, telling you this, telling you that, giving you generalities. Even the the 5-thing trick. Some of you are starting to notice that prophet you believed in is using the same old, the 5 things that you wrote down to God, he's going to do for you. And the applause goes up, and the wows and the ahs, and then the sleight of hand, they move on to the next subject, trying to gain credibility, but ultimately trying to gain your pocketbook. If a false prophet's not available until it's check time and money time and event time, then think twice. But they're usually available to those who have money. But like the vampire that's been invited into the home, you give that demonic a legal right into your home. And, demons can tell the future too, or they can pretend to. So don't always assume that if someone, is telling you this or or generalities, right, that they're a prophet. Oftentimes they're nothing more than a fortune teller, a prophet for hire. But here's the poem. He came with a smile and a borrowed creed, soft wool draped over a predator's need, spoke honeyed words in a borrowed tongue, quoting the book, but twisting the bone. Invited in with coffee and prayer, he praised the house and said, God lives here. Sat at the table, broke the bread, nodded wisely at all that was said. But wolves don't linger without a plan. He studied the hearts, not woman nor man. His eyes went past the father's stare, past the mother's guarded care. He watched the children, grown yet green, hungry for purpose, aching to be seen. He whispered calling, he whispered fate, he whispered chosen, and swallowed the bait. God told me, he said softly, your season is now. Don't walk away. He painted futures, gilded and bright. If they'd only submit, if they'd only comply. Teeth sank deep in dreams and trust. Prophecies fed on fear and dust. He crowned himself gatekeeper of grace, sold shortcuts to God at a premium rate. Soon the house grew tense and cold. Truth felt small, but his voice grew bold. Questions were labeled rebellion and pride. Distance grew thick on every side. Then came the ask, always the same. Money for ministry, money for fame, for flame and fame, right? Sow or be cursed, give or be blind. God apparently shared his bank in mind. At last the wool began to slip. Gold dripped slow from a lying lip. No shepherd's heart, no prophet's fire, just a greedy tongue and a fortune for hire. When exposed, he vanished into the night, leaving wounds where faith once shined bright. But the house stood still, bruised yet awake, wiser now for the wolf they faced. For a prophet points to God, not his chair, and love never feeds on a family's despair. Beware the voice that profits from fear. The wolf is loudest when God feels near. You know, so many times, my friend, so many times, these prophets, false prophets, attach themselves to a family. They attach themselves to your kids. They get involved in your life. They'll try to attach themselves with your pastors, whatever. But over time, it's this double speak. At the same time, they're telling you that you are the church. They're also taking invites to go to a church and get a nice love offering while working against the church, right? Hey, the church isn't perfect. We know that. But all that to say is you need to wise up to this. Do not study the occult. But let me tell you, those of us who are familiar with the occult to a degree, they use the fortune telling. They use the manipulation, which is witchcraft. They do get a legal right into your home. They get entangled in your life. And when you finally start catching on the scam, well, they're entangled in your children's lives, raising up leaders, right? Some may even take your kids on a retreat. Well, that's awful nice. But if you notice, the kids that maybe have troubles, they don't get invited. It's a money thing. It's a political thing. And you need to wise up to it. Do not give a legal right to the demonic. If any of this resonates with you, you better check. Check yourself and pray about this, okay? God does have his prophets on the earth. Most of them are not true prophets. Most of them are not. They're not. And for those of us who have seen beyond this reality, with near-death experiences or whatever, we know that the ground is level at the foot of the cross. Nobody's better than you. Nobody's higher than you. God is not a respecter of persons. So if you need to anoint your house with oil, pray over your house, watch who you invite in, because they're very legal. Demons are expert in the law. It's all law terms. A legal right, accuser of the brethren, justified, that's a legal term, declared not guilty, right? All of that, you need to get familiar with that. So I'm going to point you to God. I'm going to encourage you to follow Jesus, okay? And no man's voice. You've got probably 4 or 5 Bibles in your house that you need to read more. I need to read more too, and I will right after this more, okay? We're never done growing. We're never done learning, but you got to be wise. and not ignorant of the enemy's schemes. These false prophets that weasel their way into your home, attach to your kids, develop relationships outside of you that you don't even know about, and slowly and surely vampire the resources, money, energy, life, whatever. And by the time you start realizing, hey, wait a minute, this thing isn't being blessed. This thing is just, we're just doing this. And as long as you keep giving money, they'll always have a nice prophecy for your kids. But what are you enabling when you're inviting people into your home to this false prophet? Because you're responsible. You'll have to answer for that. I love you, but you'll have to answer for that. So be aware of the false prophets and follow God first and foremost. We all have access to the prophetic when we have Jesus, the spirit of wisdom, okay? But a lot of us watching and doing what we do, we've operated in what many would call the prophetic, and there's different forms of the prophetic. I have since I was a boy, but you're not going to see that on my business card, and you're darn not sure you're not going to see me taking money to be a prophet. I'm just a dude. I'm a nobody without God, but with Him, I'm everything, and so are you. So be wise, be encouraged. Don't feel bad if you've been had. Don't feel bad if you've been had. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel foolish. I'm trying not to, I brought a man into a city, turned out to be a shyster. And I'm feeling really bad about that. I thought I had better discernment. But here's the thing. We can have forgiveness, and we can have clarity of mind, and we can move forward in that and be wise. And next time the prophets come around, well, you know what? Let the Lord open the doors and let the fruits of their lives speak more than the sleight of hand, or that God told me that the 5 things you wrote He will do for you, the generalities or those scams. Don't do it. It's all being exposed right now. And if you notice, a new guard is being raised up, a new generation of truly prophetic people, but they're not prophets for hire. They're not glorified fortune tellers, operating outside of love or operating in narcissism, but they're operating in love. And it doesn't matter if you have money or not. It doesn't matter if your kids are troubled or not. You are all worth His time. You are all worth my time. You are all worth anyone's time who loves God more